Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I have Rhett Rogers on the channel. Rhett, how are you
Hey,
doing?
everybody. Great, great. How are you doing, Brian?
Good. So, Rhett, you are one half of the Carnivore Brothers on YouTube. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with the carnivore diet and so forth? And then at some point, we can go into like what you do with your channel, with you and your brother and so forth.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And I've enjoyed watching some of your content, and you're doing really well. And it's great to follow you and see the carnivore community thriving. Yeah, I guess to kind of start off, where did I begin? I saw a picture of my brother on Facebook, and he looked great. And I'm like, and I call him up. I go, Ashley, what are you doing, man? And he goes, well, it's a little crazy. He didn't even really want to talk about it. He was pretty new to it. But he chatted with me and kind of told me he had started carnivore, he had done this, and I knew he had a history with type 2 diabetes and was struggling there. And so he had tried paleo and different things that had helped a little bit, but not fully. And anyway, I jumped right in because I was about a month in on wearing a sleep apnea CPAP machine, and I was really, really not enjoying life wearing that thing and trying to use that to help me sleep. But the alternative was, the doctors were saying I could die in my sleep because I just simply was not breathing enough on my own. And so I was 310 pounds at my heaviest. And so I was motivated right then and there when he said what he was doing. I just kind of decided I'm jumping in, I'm going for it. I hardly did any research or anything. I just kind of let him coach me for a week or two, which is great because at that point we communicate every once a month, something like that, maybe a little less than that. But now we're communicating every day, and it's really rekindled our relationship, which is awesome. Um, but yeah, I started carnivore and immediately saw the weight loss, and of course that's a great way to a motivator to get started because it really, for most people, does really hit the weight. And I dropped weight pretty quickly. Over the course of a year, I lost a little over 100 pounds,
Mm.
and I'm currently at 220. So I'm back. So it's where I've lost 90 pounds total. But at one point, I had lost a little over 100 pounds, which was phenomenal for me. I've been overweight my entire adult life ever since I had my first kid. So just gradually packing on the pounds as you do with the standard American diet. And it just kind of it hit me because I love meat. I love bacon. I love eggs. Everything I love, I could eat every day. And so it really was not difficult for me to just jump in. I struggled by jumping in. I had a little bit of the keto flu that I had to fight through. But the weight was so noticeably dropping off that I was super motivated to continue. And so as I continued, I want to say it was 2 weeks and I had thrown the CPAP machine off. And then about a month later, I took it back to the doctor. um, the my the pain that I was dealing with daily in my joints and my knees and my ankles completely went away. The biggest struggle that I was unaware of that carnivore helped was depression and anxiety. I've dealt with that for 12 to 15 years. Some years really bad, some years a little better, on and off medication. I've never believed in medication, so I always tried to pull myself off of it when I felt I was doing better, but it would always come back. And after about 8 months on carnivore, I started going, I'm not having episodes. I'm not having anxiety attacks when I walk into Costco. I'm not I'm not laying around on the couch depressed all day because I can't have a cognitive thought like to get me motivated to move, to get off the couch and do something, right? Like all of a sudden that stuff started fading away. And it wasn't like a light switch. It took me a while and I had some self-doubt going, is this really cured? Am I better? I don't feel depressed anymore. I don't have these anxiety attacks anymore. And sure enough, by the time I was on it for a year, I truly believe that carnivore heals depression. Um, what it doesn't do is is count on you. Like if you give up and go the other way, and like I've cheated a little bit since, I'm noticing some of that depression coming back, and stuff. And so that's where I've been struggling a lot over the last few months, back and forth, doing really well, then struggle a little bit, then really well, struggle a little bit. And I'm starting to notice these things come back, which I think is my motivating factor to really push forward and continue down the path of carnivore.
Yeah. That's something that I've heard a lot from people where um, they'll some whatever it is, we'll just use depression. The depression goes away, but then if you start eating badly again, it starts to come back. So that's a good example of why it's so important to continue and not consider it like a diet necessarily, but consider it a new way of eating, right? And it makes
A
sense because
lifestyle.
like if the way that you used to eat made you, have pain and, um, had gave you depression and, made you overweight and those types of things. If that happened before, it makes sense that you're gonna start falling back into those categories again if you start eating that way again, right?
Hmm.
Um, so it is interesting. It sounds like you've probably seen the same thing I have seen at different times where it's kind of been that, oh yeah, I need to get back to it. I can't cheat. Like, and for me, it may even be worse. Like, for instance, for me, I can eat, like, let's say just one time I'll have peanut butter or something, and my wrist
Hmm.
starts hurting.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it can be one time for me, and I start noticing that. Or like I can use this example. This past weekend, I went to out of town, and the one day I had 2 pieces of pizza, and I just felt bad for like the next day and a half from it.
Yeah,
And
that's
other
interesting.
people I think are fine. They can do that, but then after maybe a few weeks or something, then they start noticing things, right? So it's kind of the same thing for me. It's just that maybe it happens quicker and I don't know why, but everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, there's some of these folks that like Carrie, man. I love the fact that he can do this every day. I mean, zero. He's never tempted, and there are people like that. I struggle. I guess you could say I have an addictive personality in that regard, where that's where when people say sugar is an addictive drug, initially I kind of shook my head at that, going, okay, that's a little far. And now I truly believe it. I really do. Because just like anything you could be addicted to, I know I should not have a cookie as I pass that cookie jar. But for whatever reason, when I'm having a moment of weakness, I'm going to grab that, pop it in my mouth, and I realize, oh my goodness, what did I just do? Right. And so I don't know. You don't do that unless there's some form of addiction to that, either whether it's the feeling or the substance or whatever it is causing that addiction. I do believe that we as a society are addicted to sugar and carbs.
Yeah. And I can tell you, I can go past that cookie jar 10 times and 9 times, nothing. But that 10th time, I'm going to eat that cookie. So
Say
I don't know
why?
how people can stay completely 100% all the time either, just because
Mhm.
of the temptations that happen. So,
Well, I think that's why when you let that one temptation in, it opens the door for so many more. When I was at my best, I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about sugar. I was cooking meals for my family as well as myself because they weren't necessarily carnivore, and I was staying very strong. And that's when that weight was rolling off, and I was doing so well. And then I don't know what triggered where I lost a little bit of my motivation, but I've been really seesawing back and forth for about the last 5 or 6 months.
yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I think it sounds like we're a little bit similar. I didn't lose quite as much weight. I've lost about 85 pounds, but I
Nice.
lost the majority of that very early on. I think I lost like 65 pounds in like 3 or 4 months. So I lost a lot early on. And now for several months, I'm not really losing any weight. I'm not gaining weight, but I'm not really losing. But there's also, like I said, there's times I eat something that I shouldn't, or um, maybe I eat more than I really should so that I just kind of maintain instead of losing. I don't know,
Mhm.
but there's always something, it seems like, that happens with me, and I just haven't really been losing the weight. And I know I have more fat to lose, but at the same time, I'm sure you're thinking the same thing with you. I've lost so much weight altogether and I feel so much healthier, you know. Um, I'm happy with where I'm at. If I don't lose some of the fat, or if it takes a long time, that's okay because I feel so much better than I have in years.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I hate that that is my attitude because, one of, I don't know if you've seen some of my videos. I say, nothing tastes as good as feeling healthy feels, and it's so true. Yet for some reason, I'll have that, a drink of alcohol or that cookie or whatever it may be. That's that temptation, right? And yet I know what it's like to feel almost like a superhuman version of myself. I want to get back there, um, but that takes a good what would you say for me? It's a good 30 days of being strict, perfect carnivore, and then I am feeling almost superhuman.
yeah, yeah. I tell you, I'd probably say even the best I've ever felt is when I still just considered it carnivore, but it was almost like lion diet, except there were eggs, where it was basically just beef, eggs, and salt and water. And when
Right.
I was doing that, and I was also OMAD, where I was doing it one meal a day, I
Hmm.
did that for a good month and a half, 2 month period, and I felt by far my best during that time period. The problem
Nice.
with
Were you
trying to get
also working
myself to
out?
do that. No, at the time I was not working out,
Okay.
believe it or not. But the problem is, trying to get myself to do that, to get back to that, right? I
Hmm.
I mean, I enjoy chicken wings, so I'll eat chicken wings and stuff. Um, Chicken wings don't fill me up the same way that beef does, though. So,
Right.
lately I've kind of been getting back into OMAD, but I kind of teeter around between OMAD and 2MAD, 2 meals a day.
Mm.
So that's a good segue. How do you handle it normally? Are you doing like 1 meal, 2 meals, or possibly even three? How do you do that?
Yeah, I definitely don't believe in that, 3 meal a day structure anymore for sure. That is something that has definitely helped. When I'm at my best, I think OMAD's the way to go. Um, if I know it's going to be a hard working physical day, sometimes I'll have that mind trick where I go, okay, well, I'll at least eat something before I go. But really, I don't need that fuel; it's already in me with the 1 meal a day. That's um, but yeah. So sometimes if I'm going on a hike or something, I'll make sure I have some eggs. And leftover steak from the night before for breakfast. So I'd say the majority of the time that I was on or that I've been on the diet, I've been more of a um, like 1.5 meal a day, kind of a smaller one in the morning, and then my big one in the evening. But I have toyed with 1 meal a day. Certainly felt great during that, and then did a little bit of fasting here and there. I think with 1 meal a day, you're naturally doing the intermittent fasting, really, and
Mm,
so. I think there's something to be said about that in the weight loss as well, because when I was doing 1 meal a day and focused on the intermittent fasting, the weight was consistently dropping off.
yeah. And when you eat, how do you how do you manage to what point you stop eating? Is it based on just like when you feel full, or do you just set a set amount that I'm just going to eat this amount at this meal? How do you do that?
Yeah, I never had the same appetite that my brother had with that. So like, my brothers will send me pictures. My other brother in Canada is now doing carnivore as well. He's about 6 months in and feeling great. Um, that's another tangent though. But yeah, so eat. Usually, I'm good with a ribeye. I'm a T-bone steak, sure. Sometimes I'll have a little bit left over and I'll throw that into some eggs or something the next morning. But yeah, my brothers can, send me a picture of a couple steaks and chicken on the side with some sausage or something, and that's their 1 meal, But I truly believe that the way to do it is Dr. Chafee and Dr. Barry say it is just eat till you're satiated. Just eat until Dr. Chafee says, eat until it doesn't taste as good anymore,
Mm.
right? Eventually, that the meat just kind of, it's like, oh, I don't really feel like eating this anymore, and it's time to put it in the fridge, and whatever's left over, that's for leftovers the next day. Which, I don't know about you, but steak the next day is almost even better than fresh.
Yeah, I gotta say I don't have leftovers very often, but sometimes I do. So sometimes I do. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for an omelet, and so I usually take my leftover steak, make sure I have a few bites left over, chop it up, and put it in my
Mm.
omelet.
Oh yeah, that'd be really good.
Mm.
So omelet, let's talk about that a little bit. Do you do dairy? Do you eat cheese or
I do. Originally, because you start out, it's an elimination diet. You're kind of really seeing what your body reacts to. And I always thought I was lactose intolerant. Turns out, after doing carnivore, I'm fine with dairy. It is one of those trigger foods that if I'm trying to lose weight, I'm not going to lose weight fast if I'm adding dairy in. However, doing that, I realized it was much more of a gluten or wheat allergy that I had, that I was reacting to all these years. And
Mhm.
so, really, it breaks my heart because I really enjoy trying new beers from different breweries and all that, right? But I've really had to just say no to beer and cut out the wheat and that kind of thing out of my life. And I've helped a lot of the gastral issues I was having and things like that. So, I do add cheese to some of my meals if I'm doing eggs, and I will add a little bit of heavy cream when I'm mixing up the eggs. But that's about all the dairy that I have. The cheese also make great taco shells. You can crisp up the cheese and make a little taco shell, fill it with chicken or beef or something.
Mm.
Beef and Butter Gal has a recipe on that on her channel, and I've tried that a few times, and it's really good.
Okay.
Are you doing cheese at all?
I do, yeah. I don't I would say I don't have cheese a lot, not very often, but I will. Something I've been doing a little more often is having more like omelet type of eggs. Like I was before doing a lot of over easy eggs, and I've
Mm,
been going more into like the omelet style now. And I will put cheese on the omelet. Um, Most of the time, that's the only time I have cheese. Yeah, so I'm the only one in my family that does carnivore.
mm.
So my wife and I will go out sometimes and out to eat, and like we'll go to like let's say Texas Roadhouse, and I use that as an example because I've put videos out here before what I do. So
Do they
some
still have the Texas Road, the egg roll, the Texas egg roll?
I don't know because I haven't ordered that. I don't know. They might.
That used to be that one would make me sin today still. Oh, so good.
Yeah. Well. So let me tell you what I
Yeah.
do, and sometimes I get some really weird looks from the waiter.
Mm,
Um, I'll order the salad with just the cheese and the egg. So their salads have cheese and egg on 'em, right?
mm.
So they'll be like, "Okay, so you just want lettuce, cheese, and egg?" "No, I just want cheese and egg. I don't want the lettuce either, just cheese and egg." And they're like, "Really?" Like one time I even had somebody be like, "I don't know if we can do that." And I'm like thinking, why couldn't you? But okay, I've I've ordered that way before, and they're like, okay, let me ask, and then they'll come back and be like, yeah, we actually can do that. I'm like, okay,
Just
so
make the lettuce disappear.
yeah, so if I go to Texas Roadhouse, I probably have more cheese than I should because they'll give you the big bowl that they'll give you for a salad, and it has basically just cheese and egg in it, and that'll basically be my side. I've even done it before where I just say give me 2 orders of that because I'm not gonna have, like, a potato or anything like that, and then I'll get that, and then the steak will come. So yeah, I guess the answer is that I do eat cheese, not all the time, but I do eat it. For me, I have noticed, though, that sometimes I get a little bloated when I eat the cheese, so,
Mm.
I probably stay away from it probably more because of that, but I don't know. Um Okay, so let me ask you another question. And this one, so we've talked a little bit about, when you eat and some of the foods that you eat, but what would you say is your favorite food to eat?
Oh, a ribeye steak.
Okay.
Hands down, a ribeye steak. Um, the beautiful thing about carnivore is when you're cooking steak every night, you get really good at it. Right?
Yeah.
And so I've got the reverse sear down. I'll smoke it low and slow at about 220 on the smoker for about 30 minutes or so, and then finish it off on the cast iron in some beef tallow. And oh, it is just beautiful. Yeah, that and then probably behind that is a T-bone. I love the fillet, and then to finish off with the New York, it's a good meal.
Hmm. Okay. I
How about you?
I would definitely say ribeye for myself as well. Um, I've been noticing though, New York strip is much cheaper, and for some reason, my tastes have gotten better on New York strip. So I've been doing a lot more New York strip lately. But ribeye is definitely my favorite. I'm kind of wondering if maybe I'm getting to a point that I don't need as much fat. Is like
Hmm.
maybe early on I needed more fat because my body was so fat deprived.
Right.
Um, but yeah, because the New York strip is a little bit more leaner than the ribeye, and that's been tasting better to me lately. But I still say that the ribeye is probably just the most flavorful to me, the best steak out there.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. They're so expensive here. I don't know what they are in your area, but if you don't find them on sale, they're $20 a pound, and so
mm,
when they're 8.99 a pound a couple times a year, I try and stock up on those. But otherwise, usually it's New York's if I'm having steak because they go on sale a lot more often.
yeah, yep. All right. Um, so let me ask you this question because I've heard this from a lot of people. They say that they don't know how people can eat steak every day because um they just can't stomach it, I guess, or something, or they don't like the taste of it enough to eat it every day. I'm not that type of person. I could have steak every day, but how do you feel about that?
I can have steak every day pretty easily. I am one of those that likes a little bit of variety. I always have a bag of bacon handy. I do the Dr. Berry crisps. I even did a little video on our channel on doing the bacon crisps, and I have those always. Um, I try not to snack much, but I'll put a handful of those on the side of my steak plate or something like that. Right? I always have a little bit of bacon on the side. Um, so yeah, I really have no problem eating steak every day. Sure, I can change it up, and have different cuts. I have ground beef here and there and whatnot, but I love beef. I have no problem with it.
Mm.
um, some of those vices. When my family's eating sushi or something, and I remember, that tastes pretty good, and I like that stuff. But no, if I have, if we have the money to where I can have steak every single day, I would. But it's just so expensive here, I can't do it every day. Um, so we definitely mix
Yeah.
in ground beef. I make stews, stew meat
Mm.
with ground beef and with steamed chicken, and I just kind of throw in a whole bunch of protein and just make a little stew, and they're fantastic out of bone broth.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. So we were talking just a few days ago, I guess, before doing this interview, and you were talking about a road trip that you recently went on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that trip and what you got to do and so forth with that?
Sure, yeah, um, it was a little bit of a soul searching trip. Kind of, I had fallen off the wagon a bit carnivore wise and everything, and I'm going through a few things in my life here that, just I decided to kind of it'd be good for my soul to hit the road, see some of God's creation, and just get away a little bit. And so my wife was working. My kids had school, but we were all done with sports and everything. So that, I had a good window for 4 days or so to hit the road, and so I jumped at that, and I kind of picked a few spots on the map and decided to drive towards them, but not really plan out the trip too much and just see where it took me. And so um, the first day I had picked a river that sounded great. I was going to get there about 5 o'clock, do some fishing, and then set up for the night. And I get to the creek, and it had completely dried up. And so I thought, okay, well, this isn't exactly what I thought. So actually, I had some friends that were neighbors that had moved into that area, and I thought, well, I know they're around here. Maybe I'll message them and just see what they're up to. And sure enough, they messaged right back, oh yeah, we're about 40 minutes from where you're at right now. And so I went and visited them, and they have started a clinic in Sandpoint, Idaho. And this clinic is completely vitamins, natural healing. They have a salt machine, to help with breathing. They have a heat treatment, massage therapy. They do IVs for vitamins and stuff. So it's really neat to get a tour of that clinic. And I asked Mel if she would be on our channel at some point. She said she'd be happy to, chat through it. But they're not necessarily carnivore themselves, but they're pushing, keto, ketovore, paleo, carnivore, and the healing properties that they bring to their patients. And so that was awesome, to get to see them, get to see what they're doing, and just kind of it helped, with my mentality of, I know I want to do something in this community and help in this community, but how can I do that? And so chatting with them and seeing their vision and what they did really helped kind of open my eyes to possibilities of different career paths that I could go down. And anyway, I chatted with them for a while. They took me back to their acreage. They have a homestead out there that they had bought, 10 acres, chickens. Their parents live on there. They have a shooting range, they had a little creek going through. And so, it was awesome. So I spent some time with them. Um, and it got pretty late as I was chatting with them, so they took me to a spot. They understood my mission, right? And so they took me to a spot down that they thought I could stay at near a river, and it was a beautiful spot. And I fired up my charcoal grill and cooked a T-bone, and was I don't even know the name of the lake. I think Lake Pendorale, in Idaho, and I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's what it looked like on the map. Anyway, spent a great night there. I just slept in the back of the van. I kept it simple. I just wanted to be able to hit the road each morning, and go somewhere new. Um, Day two, I headed towards Montana, with the destination being Glacier National Park. I don't know. Have you ever been there?
No, I have not.
It was beautiful. On the way, I just kind of decided I'm going to stop at anything that looks neat, and so I stopped by a hike at the Kootenai River, and there's a suspension bridge there, and beautiful, just spots where I took video and pictures and whatnot, and did a little hike. And I got to the Glacier National Park, and I really wanted to see a bear out in the wild. They have grizzlies and they have black bear there, but it was a little early in the season. One of the main roads was closed through the pass, and so there were some bear sightings, but I didn't get to see any. But it was a beautiful drive, and I mean, I stopped every 3 minutes and pulled over because there was a new angle to take a picture of. It was just that beautiful. And maybe I can send you some pictures and you can pop them up on the screen as I'm talking here. But um, yeah, that was another fantastic day. It was a little early when I was kind of wrapping up there, and I thought, well, I'll go ahead and head out of the park and find a place to stay. Um, Interesting, I couldn't find much. I'd pull off the side of the road, and it'd look a little sketchy, maybe a little unsafe. And I thought, okay, I'll move on to the next area. And so anyway, it was getting dark, and I finally pulled off at a campsite. And they had firewood and everything. So I set up in the dark unintentionally, but did my T-bone steak there, and I was right on that Kootenai River, and it was such a beautiful backdrop. And I just, I don't know your religious affiliation or whatnot, but I consider that wonderful time with God, and I kind of had some devotional time, and just really tried to think through, the whole purpose of that trip was to do a little soul searching, right? So, what can I do? Where am I going? What path am I going down next? And Yeah, it was fantastic. And then the next day, I hung out there for a while, did another fire in the morning, and just enjoyed the view and the sound of the river, um, and then headed off to Cooley Dam in eastern Washington. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's one of the larger dams in the world.
Mm.
And a long time ago, I guess the floodwaters or whatever had gone through that area and created kind of canyons, not quite as Grand Canyon as the ones in Arizona, but it was a beautiful sight. I didn't know Washington had this. I've lived here for what 20 years, and I did not know about this site. And I told my wife when I got back, we are going there as a family. We're going to camp there. We're going to enjoy that part of Washington because yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, and ended up being on the road for 3 days, about 38 hours, um, T-bone steak at each stop, and just really enjoyed the peace. Listened to a few audiobooks, listened to some music, but and just kind of had time to think to myself and figure out where I'm going next.
Yeah, that is great. I mean, that you know the the I don't know, I can't think of the right word I want to say, but like the mental clarity, I guess, that you can get from doing a trip like that is just awesome. So I'm glad you had the opportunity to do that.
hmm
Uh,
It was really good for me.
yeah, great. So let's talk really quick about your YouTube channel, Carnivore Brothers with your brother.
Mhm.
So just kind of give us a little background about that, and I'm also going to have a link on the screen to your channel so that people can go check out your channel.
Nice. So I believe it's at Carnivore Brothers, but I'll make sure that I send that to you. Um, yeah, like I said earlier, Ashley kind of just decided, hey, we're starting this, right? We both had the heart to want to help, and so we've we've struggled with the direction in which we want to take our channel. We'll pop on and we'll do some lives. We're meeting some great people through this, and we both kind of have he's kind of gone the route of he's doing some meat cuts and how to eat a little bit cheaper on carnivore, and his why is different because he cured type 2 diabetes, so he's kind of going down that path, and I've been more trying to come up with trying to figure out what angle I want to use for the channels. But really the heart of why we started it was we just want to help people, and we believe that this lifestyle is the way to healing. And whether we stay strict on it or not, he has been 100% more strict than I have. um, but his why is different, right? If he jumps back into sugar, his type 2 diabetes can come back that quick, and he's living a healthy life again. And so as far as our channel and where we're going with it, I have a little when I was on that road trip, I came up with a little skit type thing that I'm going to do. Again, it's going to take the nerve for me to put it together and do it. But I do plan on doing that this week and try and have it out next week. Um, I think it'll be a little bit of an editing nightmare, but that's part of my hesitation for doing more videos is I'm struggling with the editing and whatnot. So I'm just going to take on a project and have to dive head first.
Great. All right. Well, Rhett, thank you for coming on the channel today. It's been a great conversation. I'd like to do this again sometime. Maybe we can get together again, maybe in, I don't know, a few weeks or a month or something, whatever. But before we end, is there anything that you would just like to say to the audience out there today?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. Because I would say number one, it's you versus you. Don't don't say I can't do this because my kids have sugar in the house. My wife makes banana bread. It's you that controls what you do, right? And that's what my struggle has been lately, because I know it's me versus me, and I'm looking for all these people and things to blame. Um, but if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, it starts with you and your heart and your mind, and you can do it. nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels, right? So that's what I would say is just don't hunt for an excuse. Figure out a way to live a healthier lifestyle, whether it be keto, ketovore, paleo, carnivore. There is a better, healthier way than the standard American diet.
Well said. Thanks again, Rhett.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.